So, folks, given that I am a Chinese son-in-law, yes, I married a Chinese woman from Shanghai a few years ago. I'm gonna talk about my impressions of Shanghai and China, although I didn't travel extensively throughout China. I was only to Suzhou, Hangzhou. As to the rural areas, the farthest I traveled it was Lishui in Zhejiang province and Chongming Island on the Yangtze River Delta. So most of the time I spent in Shanghai, and this footage I took during my sporadic rides on the bicycle or during my walks in the proximity of my wife's apartment. This is a western Shanghai. This is a Newsweek magazine from 10 years ago. Look at the front cover. The Post-China World. How history's greatest economic boom will end. Okay. Now, March 2008. Crisis of confidence. And Fed Chairman Bernanke on the front cover. How American leadership failed the global markets. Okay. Now, August 2008. Inflation explosion. From an age of high growth and low prices, are we now headed for the opposite? Low growth and high prices. Interesting. This one is Time Magazine, 2008, November. Okay, there's a boat with an American flag filled with water, and it says a sea of debt. The US economy is sick and don't expect it to recover anytime soon. Doom and gloomy. Now, 2009. Crisis on the left. How Europe's social democrats can save themselves. And now this one. July 2010. Worse than Wall Street. How Europe's huge losses are killing the economy. And the euro coin split in half. Newsweek magazine from 2007. Former Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan interview. Look at this. What then can we reasonably project for the US economy for, say, the year 2030? Little, unless we first specify certain assumptions. I need affirmative answers to the following questions to get started. Will the rule of law still be firm in 2030? Will we still adhere to the principle of globalized free markets with protectionism held in check? By protectionism, I mean not just barriers to international trade and finance, but governmental restrictions against competition in domestic markets as well. Will we have fixed our dysfunctional elementary and secondary school systems? Will the consequences of global warming emerge slowly enough so as not to significantly affect US economic activity by 2030? And finally, will we have kept terrorist attacks in the United States at bay? Unsaid are those possibilities, such as a wider war or a pandemic, that could upset any forecast. A pandemic. Now, this is what he said about China. Newsweek question. It's common to hear complaints from many quarters about China's rapid rise. Does it worry you? He answered, I am not, as many people are, concerned about China becoming a threat militarily. In my book, I'm essentially forecasting that what happened to the communist parties of Europe is likely what will happen to the Chinese Communist Party. They are going to be a formidable economic power, which I think is all to the good. However, it seems that Greenspan's view on China hasn't gained too much traction since then. Quite the opposite. It seems that the anti-CCP sentiment is the most prevailing narrative in the Western media of today. And I still can't figure it out whether such narrative is real and serious, or is it just a benign posturing? Maybe behind closed doors, in private, they say to their Chinese counterparts, hey, no hard feelings, it's all fake. It's been designed for domestic consumption only. Like, they justify such narrative by saying to them, you know, democracy inevitably creates divisions within a nation because obviously there's more than one line of thought. And to fix those divisions, we use patriotism as a tool to remind the divided that they are still on the same boat. And for patriotism to work effectively, it needs a foreign enemy and works well if it's either real or made up enemy. This is my reasoning. When the Soviet Union fell apart, Vladimir Putin took over through the legit democratic process, and everything stayed the same in regards to Russia continuing what Russia had been and what Russia will always be. An important player on the world stage with the mind of its own. And Vlad is kind of a guy who doesn't scare easy when he's under the gun. And it is what it is. A democracy that you might not like either. Oops. So, same applies to China too. Even if the CCP would dissolve right tomorrow, China will stay China. If there would be an elections next week in China, Xi Jinping would win those elections. So why bother? So my point is that all of that anti-CCP rhetoric in actuality may not be as genuine and sincere as it might have been perceived as such when you initially looked at it. Or is it just a wishful thinking of mine, since I would not want to see any further escalation of already strained relationship between the West and China? Elektryczni skuteri vain na miljoner. Na miljoner.
要不做你放馅儿，你要是做
Kafići slastičane, ove pandice. Znači, one se dozivaju sa ovim gore koji je Bigger Panda, to a Starbucks coffee, Häagen-Dazs. I don't know how to, ne znam kako da ovo izgovori. Da vidimo kakve su tu pastries.